Well, hello everyone, and welcome to The Weird Man, an exploration of the access of leadership for everyone. This is the 5th episode of Series 3 about the application of the Love SG worldview in leadership and leadership projects. The last episode was part 1 of 3 episodes on resistance to projects. In that episode, I discussed how our development from child to adult is found in resistance. I noted that it is important to get that resistance doesn't come along with a moral value. It is neither right nor wrong. To have resistance as making life work is allowing resistance to be that it is making life work for you. To create with resistance requires an awareness of our resistances. As adults, our access to the resistances we have to life will be wherever we can find access. A useful start is to get present to a setback you had as a child. You can then ask whether your interpretation or story of the setback was true. It can be very useful in going back to the source people at the event, like your parents. Tell them the event you remembered. Tell them the story you had around the event, that you had it a certain way. Ask them what they remember. They may not remember. However, even if not, they can often give you an angle to your story, because your story is based in how you came to see your relationship with the source person, such as your parents, not just the event. You will find that unnecessary resistances disappear, giving you a freedom in life. Now, in this episode, I will discuss how resistance is inherent to existence, life, evolution, and art. Resistance creates our life and can be wielded to create a life. Resistances make life work through our opposing an aspect of the games and constraints applied by our parents and others in our lives, including our siblings, other adults, and teachers. We find out 2 things when opposing the constraints in our social world. The first is our capacity in relation to the constraints, the boundaries of our life. And the second is the nature of the constraint. When we are not learning anything useful from our resistance to the games and constraints of others in our social network, we will, by default, align with those constraints from our childhood and youth. The more versatile we can be as adults and parents in introducing the child to games and constraints different from those we use by default, the more diverse modelling from which the child will create some of its adult alignments. We can do this by simply having a diverse social network that we introduce to the child. Our adult alignments will give us our adult lives through the combination of the resistances and how permissions or non-resistances show up for us. However, the more free to be and free to act that we can be as adults, the more versatile will be the new adult we are guiding. A word of caution. Free to be and free to act doesn't mean free for all, as in no rules. It means being free of absolute constraints on our behaviour or responses in life as established as our identity. It means being free to use those behaviours and also to have as much wriggle room as we can from which to use other behaviours. It means being free to use all rules and ways of being as a parent in the project of raising a versatile and resilient person, and for any other project of life. It means that you can be free to resist some things in society that you want to change. For me, I am a resistance to violence, war, domestic violence, and the killing of women, and violence against the environment and the ecologies of the planet. Now, there is an adage that what you resist persists. The adage comes from a notion of resistance as coming together of equal and opposite forces. However, there are other ways of using resistance. Think of water resisting and yet sliding off and around the bow of a ship. Similarly, the soil resisting and yet sliding up and away from the blade of the plough. Imagine the resistance of the stone to the sculptor's chisel and then flaking off. Imagine the resistance of the mould to the soft clay holding a beautiful shape. You can keep on in this vein, noticing that life itself and evolution is born of resistance and acquiescence, what we could call the form of constraint. Art is shaped by the constraining rules that are consciously or unconsciously placed by the artist. We can know that our resistances and constraints are structuring something that works, a work of art. We can know what works by that we are doing what works. We can't know that releasing any of the constraints and resistances we formed with our childhood development are going to leave us with something that works. We do know where some things in our life don't work. Although we might have some ideas, some information, we don't know what will make it work. In that, we are not doing what will make it work. So how would we know? We know when we are making our leadership projects in life happen. We don't know why they aren't happening. And saying that they aren't happening because I am lazy or impatient, or even that I should have done something particular, isn't knowing why they aren't happening. At best, things like being lazy, impatient, or should be, is what is showing up for you as your leadership not happening. Lazy or impatient or forgetful or should have done are signs of resistance created by not knowing how to make leadership work. They are where resistance heads you off, turns you around, and sets you back on your usual life. The life that feels like it's your life, even when it doesn't work. There is nothing to be fixed here. There is nothing to be changed about you here. What is here is that you can notice resistance and constraint. Notice your life like a work of art. I'll discuss more about life as a work of art, as constraints, next time. Bye for now.